ever spend hours making a video and get 23 views? Yeah, that's not a content problem. It's a title problem. This is Gratitude Geek. I'm Candice Rodarty, productivity coach for female solopreneurs over 40. And today we are talking to Jake Thomas, the YouTube title whisperer behind CreativeHooks.com. He's helped creators rack up millions of views by mastering one simple overlooked skill: writing titles people can't resist clicking. Today is all about the psychology of curiosity, clickworthiness, and the mistakes even the pros still make. If you want more eyeballs on your videos without selling your soul to clickbait, you're in the right place. Welcome, Jake.
Thanks, Candice. Thanks for having me.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. You had to reschedule on me, but that's okay. I actually have followed you for years.
That's awesome.
And so I appreciate that you were taking the time to talk to me with my weird audience that may not be your audience, but it's about a topic that's important for us to all understand, because psychology and marketing go hand in hand. And most of us, the small business owners, marketing is where we struggle the most. How did you become the title whisperer?
I got a job a couple years ago managing a YouTube channel, and my boss was like, all right, titles are the most important thing. Like, if nobody clicks our videos, if someone reads a title and they don't say like, okay, like I want to click this, then we just wasted all that time making that video, and we're not going to get any views, subscribers, sales, leads. We're going to get nothing. So the title is the most important thing. The only thing is I didn't know what made a good title. I didn't know how to write a good title. And I'm like, oh, sweet, this is the most important part of my job, and I have no idea how to do it. And we had like a 90-day trial period in that job, and I almost got fired. And like, because I didn't know the most important thing. And eventually I finally kind of figured out, I kind of made it like my personal mission to be like, all right, this is my weakness, and like I'm going to master it. And I kind of fell in love with YouTube titles, mostly because of like the leverage that it has. Like, so a YouTube title is only like 10 words, but if you get those 10 words right, that could be the difference between like 10 views and like 10 million views, or, or 10 views and like 1,000 views. They're so powerful. They're so simple. You don't need like, fancy graphics or assets or like Photoshop skill. It's literally just 10 words or so. So I kind of fell in love with it. I started writing a newsletter. People liked what I had to say. I ended up quitting my job, going all in on the newsletter and in my own stuff. And here we are.
So your business model is a newsletter.
For the most part, yeah. So at the time, I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur. I started as an entrepreneur right out of college, totally failed, had to get a real job. Finally figured out like, oh, like this is actually like how you like make sales and how you like drive traffic and how you run a business. Because I worked for a lot of ad agencies, and that was awesome. But like the whole time, I'm like, all right, let me try to find something like that I can do on my own. And at the time, I had a blog, a little like dog blog. This is when niche websites were kind of everything. And my income for that month was heavily dependent on how Google felt about me. So I would make like $1,000 a month. I would make $10,000 a month. Like, it was really like, did these like 4 articles, did they rank number 2 on Google, or like, did they rank number like 7? And so that was just like a huge fluctuation in my income. And I'm like, well, I can't quit my job, like the steady income, and just like, throw my future to Google. So I was like, let me try to find the most anti-algorithm business. Yeah, a newsletter was it. I'll just need to get traffic, but like, I can send the newsletter every week, and, I don't have to worry about how much an algorithm likes me that month to figure out how much money I make.
And you totally own your list. And people follow you because they're following the content that you create, and it's actually valuable, which is, I think, the difference between content creation that's there for clicks and content creation that's there to teach. And you are absolutely a teacher.
Thank you.
What I love about your newsletter, though, is that it's just curation. So it's a very simple business model. You curate titles that work and titles that don't work, and you tell us why. And that is your newsletter, CreativeHooks.com.
It is, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's super simple. And people tell me all the time, like, oh, I read your newsletter because it's short. Like, it's easy to skim. So like if someone else is considering a newsletter, like, I know a couple of people have been coming out with like, all right, the 1-minute newsletter, where they just like, you just have something that like you just quickly skim. I've signed up for a couple newsletters, and like right now my inbox is like full of like newsletters to read because a lot of them are long, and eventually it's going to get too long and I'm never going to read them because it's going to take like effort for me to kind of sit in there and like and digest them. Whereas a lot of people have told me like, yeah, I just like skim your newsletter for video ideas and then I go on my way. So as a business and as a, content strategy, that's been awesome.
Well, so there's an idea for folks that are looking for a business idea. Create a curated newsletter that is something interesting, that's interesting to you and interesting to an audience.
Yeah, and I just sent my like 200th edition. I haven't missed a week, knock on wood, yet, but it's super simple. Like my subject lines are, I'll like follow it like a template. I never change like my intro, like, hey, welcome. Like it's always the same thing. I have intentionally made it very, very simple on myself, so that I can stay consistent. My biggest like fear with the newsletter was like at the time, everything I had started up until this point, like I started, then I stopped, started and stopped. I was super inconsistent. So my whole goal was like, all right, let me just make this super easy, which has been awesome because it's been easy for me to write and easy for my audience to read.
There it is. Just keep it simple, super simple. So I want to talk about what not to do on YouTube because I have an example. So I have two YouTube channels. One of them I started in like 2008, maybe. I don't know. When is that when YouTube started? I mean,
Oh, six?
it's been
Wow,
around.
that's impressive.
Yeah, I think it's 2008. I got one of those congratulations at it's your something anniversary, and it was a really big number, and I went, holy crap. But so I posted, I'm living with metastatic breast cancer. So 10 or 11 years ago, I just posted in front of the webcam, nothing fancy, no fancy thumbnail, nothing, just stories about my breast cancer journey. And there are 3 that still get viewed every single week and comments, views and comments every week on that channel. It only has about 700 subs. It's not a big channel. And none of those videos has more than 100,000 views. All right. And then I started the podcast and I started it. I followed people's advice like you, and I started its own channel. So the podcast is its own channel and it has about 200, 250 subscribers. So it isn't monetized or doesn't have any of the fancy features the other one has, which is a little frustrating because that's the one I put most effort into. The reason why I'm telling you this story is I had a guest whose episode got over 10,000 views and the views just kept coming in. And I was like, this is wrong. Something is not right here. And so I started to really dig in. And that episode had got put on a playlist that had an ID number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that wasn't it, but it was something weird like that. And I was like, this is not right. This is really, I mean, 10,000 views of 30 seconds. And it's got something like, it has 490 likes and 7 comments, but the 7 comments I went in, I said, you guys, this video is getting way too much traffic and no comments. Could you please go make a comment? So I asked my friends to do it just to make it so it wasn't, because I didn't want it to screw up my channel. So that's really creepy and gross. Talk about that.
That's interesting. I mean, so I had something, it was kind of similar where a channel was just, it was like people call it like view botting, where it was getting a lot of traffic from like Google, but it was just tanking my stats. So, it is.
So that's what it's called, view botting. I'm assuming that's what it was.
I think so. I mean, so like when I looked at my traffic source, it was external, and I think it looked like it was coming from Google, but it was not coming from Google. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's possible that but yeah, adding things to the playlist, if you didn't do that, I mean, there might be some settings that you can go in YouTube and like, I'm not even sure. I don't know, but yeah, that is interesting.
The thing is, and I'm not saying that the guest did this because I don't think he did, but the thing is, there are people who inbox me every day telling me that they can grow my YouTube channel for me. And I just say, no, thank you, or delete, or put it in the, because I know that that's what they're going to do. They're going to do stuff like that. Right. Which is just, first of all, it's not the right audience.
100%.
I don't want bots watching my videos. I want women who have a business who are over 40 watching my videos to get ideas on how to grow and scale and work on their own terms. That's who I want watching these videos. So I don't care if I ever have a video that goes viral, because there aren't that many women over 40 who are solopreneurs,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So talk about that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I 100% agree. Like I have like this little like dog channel on the side, and I got like 8 million views on one of the videos. And it was awesome. Like, I made a couple $1,000s. It was cool. At the same time, I was doing some consulting for like a real estate investment company, and I was writing the titles and the thumbnail text, and they would get like 500 or 1,000 views, or 2,000 views. So like, all right, cool, 2,000 views versus 8 million views. But they're a real estate like investment company. They were making way more money. I mean, it really depends on how you like your monetization strategy. If you are a realtor in New York City and you get 50 views on your video about like best neighborhood in Manhattan, you are going to make a lot of money from that. Because if you get one house that's like a couple $100,000 or $1 million, whatever the commission is, right? Views certainly are not important for your audience. They're not as important as what you said exactly, like the right audience. And YouTube is a great traffic source to drive traffic to your business, to sell your services or your course or your products, whatever it is. And it's definitely important to keep that in mind as you're writing titles and making thumbnails and making content. Am I attracting the right audience based on my end goal of my business, not just vanity metrics of like, I got 10,000 views this video, that's awesome. But like, did it actually help move the needle for your business? And I think many people aren't very clear on exactly what they want from YouTube, especially because YouTube is, subscribers and views are so public. We're never going to see if your video got 50 views, but like you got, four clients from that. Nobody's going to see that. Someone's going to look at your channel and be like, oh, I got 50 views. That stinks. So it is hard to ignore the vanity metrics, but you just got to stay on track and be very clear on what you want, and have a good strategy to achieve that.
I have very low viewership on YouTube. It's this is a podcast, so it gets better viewership on or listenership on the audio versions. For me, it's a win when I get a text message from Karen or Diana and they say, Candace, that was a great episode. Because those are two women whose opinions that matter to me. Or when my husband, this is very, very rare, but my husband will text me and say, that was a really good conversation. I'm like, oh, you actually listened to it? I mean, that matters more because I'm not making content for the world. I'm making content for a specific subset of people in the world who have a specific need. And that's who I'm making the content for. And I think that's the difference between people who create content creators who create channels to get the viewership and content creators who are creating content for a specific person.
I mean, yeah, and especially with podcasts, like the relationship is so much deeper on a podcast than just like, a tutorial video. So it's not all views are created equal.
Let's get to the end game. So what you said was, what is the end game and how do we get there? So when you're thinking about your titles and your thumbnails and your descriptions, all of those need to somehow funnel to the end game. So how do we do that?
So what's a good example of, the type of business that someone who's listening?
Okay, a subscription box.
A subscription box.
Somebody who's trying to launch a subscription box.
Okay, so like an e-com subscription box. Okay, so and selling what's in the box? Makeup.
I don't want to give too much of her.
All right, let's just
pet. It's pet related.
Okay, all right, let's just say pet. Okay, so you might say, all right, well, I need to attract the right audience. Okay, so they have I have a pet subscription box. Let's just say, for example, I have a dog, so I'm going to use dogs for this example. Maybe I'll make, there's kind of two ways you can go about it. You can do kind of like the entertainment. You're like, all right, I'm going to make videos about like 10 dog facts. And if let's say I have a golden retriever. So let's say I have a subscription box for golden retrievers, which is a business that I really wanted to start a couple of years ago. I didn't. But I might have a YouTube channel about golden retrievers, like 10 interesting facts you didn't know about golden retrievers, or like, things only golden retriever owners know, but things only golden retriever moms know, things only golden retriever dads know, and just making content that'll attract the right audience. So if I have a golden retriever subscription box, I could make 10 dog facts you didn't know, and that might get like, I might get 1 million views on that video. But if like very few golden retriever owners watch that video, then it it's kind of used for nothing. And a great way is to call out your specific audience is a great idea. So like 10 facts only golden retriever moms know. I wish I knew this before I launch my subscription box business. So that's gonna attract like only the right audience, right?
Yeah.
So, or like 10 tips,
So the title would be things I wish I knew before I launched my subscription box business, or things I wish I knew before I launched my golden retriever subscription box.
So if you as a business owner, if you want to attract other people who want to launch subscription boxes, you might say that. But
Okay.
for this subscription box, I wouldn't even mention that I have a subscription box. If I'm going for kind of the entertainment play, 10 things I wish I knew before I got a golden retriever, or like, things only golden retriever moms know, that's going to attract the right audience. I'll probably in about like a third of the way through the video, like, by the way, if you have a golden retriever, check our subscription box. The link is in the description. And so I'll put like the link in the description and pin it as the first comment. But really just thinking about what is my ideal audience interested in, and how can we create content to attract them?
So if the person creating the subscription box isn't comfortable being in front of the camera, is it okay to make that a faceless video?
In this case, yes. So like we're talking about entertainment here. Trust isn't as important. Faceless channels aren't the best for building trust and authority and credibility. They're great at getting eyeballs. And for a subscription box, like if I'm trying to sell a golden retriever subscription box business, I don't need that much trust. I need to bring in the right audience and be like, hey, here's a cool box. And like, here's all the awesome stuff that you're going to get. You don't need to it's not like, I'm not selling a service where you need to like trust that I can deliver on results for you. Those are, slightly different. In that case, you probably would want to be on camera because, if you have a higher ticket and like there's a lot more trust and credibility is needed there. But for this golden retriever subscription box, I would just have a golden retriever channel that's attracting, golden retriever owners. 10 mistakes golden retriever owners make, what I wish I knew before I got a golden retriever, things only golden retriever owners know, all those things. And that's going to attract golden retriever owners. And then you just kind of, you plug in like, hey, like, by the way, we have our subscription box, in every video, about a third through the video. You can also, I guess it depends on what aspect of the business we're talking about, but you could also just have like a lead magnet and like, hey, like, here's like, here's like our golden retriever cheat sheet, golden retriever potty training cheat sheet or something, or, whatever it is to, you could sell like, hey, here's our box, or you could just have a lead magnet to get them on your email list. I'm a huge fan of YouTube channel to email list to sale. Whereas like, it's like, all right, like you're just watching my video. You don't have that, you don't know me that well, but like, hey, sign up for my email list and then I'll email you, until you unsubscribe. I'll continue to give you what you want. And that'll help you grow your channel and kind of be anti-algorithm, because now you're building up your email list as well. So you're using YouTube to drive traffic to your email list, and you're using your email list to drive sales.
So you talk about entertainment and curiosity, and I don't want to bury the lead here because there's like half a dozen videos out there of Jake Thomas talking about the 3 things that are most clickable on the internet, and they are curiosity, fear, and desire. So we're not going to bury the lead because everybody else has done it. All right, I hate fear. I think fear is overplayed, and it's created this feeling in the world right now that just is icky. So how can we move away from fear as something that's click-worthy? How can we eliminate that from what we're doing?
Can I give you a counter argument of
Absolutely.
how you can tastefully use fear?
Okay.
So, all right, let's say we have this golden retriever channel and things you will regret when you get a golden retriever. That sounds icky, right?
Yeah.
Things you will regret. If you say things I regret after getting my golden retriever, it sounds a little bit less icky.
Okay.
So talking about your personal story, and yes, like fear it can totally be overplayed. It's super effective. So if you are sharing like, things like mistakes that you made, regrets that you had, your biggest fears, and just really making it about like, hey, these are my regrets, my fears, my mistakes, people will kind of see themselves like in your story, and you can use that very powerful emotion without feeling like you're going to regret this, right? That does feel super icky. So that's one way to kind of get around that. But on the other hand, if you don't want to use it at all, then we do need to kind of spice it up a little bit. So curiosity is a great way to get people to click. So like sharing secrets, like the secret to getting your golden retriever to listen to you every time, or maybe like once I started this, my golden retriever finally stopped pulling on the leash.
Okay.
So that builds curiosity
And desire, because nobody wants their dog pulling them.
Exactly. So we're also talking about a pain point, which you could kind of lump into fear as well, because we're talking about your dog pulling on your leash. So curiosity is one of the best ways. So secrets, open loops, you might know this is like a cliffhanger or a curiosity gap. Being counterintuitive. So like stopped training my dog and he listened better. And it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Like that's, it's counterintuitive. Those are all tactical ways to build curiosity. You can also use like time frames to make things more exciting. So like, how I potty trained my golden retriever in 2 weeks, how I quit my job and got my first $10,000 month in 6 months or something. Time frames do a great job of making interesting things feel more exciting. So like you can just say how I made $10,000 last month, which is cool. How I made my first $10,000, how I got my first $10,000 month or $10,000 month is a little bit more interesting because it kind of calls out beginners. It's like, hey, here's my first. And like for people who are looking for their first $10,000 month, like you're using like the exact words and like speaking to their exact specific dreams. So that's a great way to get people to click on, and get them excited is if you can use if you can make it more tangible. So like timeframes. If you can make it more specific, so like how I got my first $10,000 a month, calling out beginners is a great way. Those are all, using the current year. So especially at the change of the year is on everybody's mind. So if you just like drop like in 2026 in all of your videos from like November to like March, it's probably the simplest way to write a much better title because 2026 is on everybody's mind at that time. And so a lot of this is really just coming down to knowing your audience and knowing what's on their mind, what are their hopes, fears, desires, dreams, and can you speak to those by using kind of simple but specific words in your titles to grab their attention and get them interested in your video.
So the process of going through and figuring out who your ideal client is extremely important. And if you don't have any clients right now, you just make it up. This is who I want to do business with. And there is a whole psychology behind building a business for a specific person. Go back to episode 250 with Alan Dibyal, if you're listening. We talk about that in that episode. But I want to talk about the clickbaitiness versus click-worthiness and clickability. Because clickbaity is just, it works, but it's icky. So how do we not be icky? I mean, you've covered a little bit of it, but dig deeper.
So it depends. First of all, I think everybody has a different definition of clickbait.
Yeah.
So I think you're never going to make everybody happy, which just stinks, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a people pleaser.
But you don't have to make everybody happy. You just have to make your audience happy.
You're right. And by doing that, you might also, make some people mad. Like say, hey, here's how I got my first $10,000 month. Well, some people are going to be mad. How did you get your first $1,000 month? Like there's, some people can be like, oh, that's clickbait. So just my general definition of clickbait is not delivering on the promise that you made in your title. So if you make a really cool video, some people are gonna be like, oh, that's clickbait. But it's like, so let's say how I got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube in 1 year. Some people might be like, oh, that's clickbait. That's not applicable for everybody. But if you're like, hey, this is like what I actually did, then it's not clickbait. It's just a really cool video. So I do think that everybody's going to wrestle with that. But my personal definition and how I kind of assess myself of am I being clickbaity is did I deliver on the promise that I made in the title?
Okay. So just make sure that the content matches the title.
Yes, exactly. And that's a lot easier if you can start with an idea of like, all right, my audience is interested in this, so I'm going to make a video about that topic, and then I'm going to make, all right, so my title and my thumbnail are going to be about that topic. And then my intro is going to be like, kind of reaffirming like, yes, this video is about that topic. And then my actual content is going to be about that topic. It's easy for people to kind of do things the opposite way. Like, all right, I'm going to make my video. Okay. And then I'm going to have an intro, but it's not very clear. So I'm going to just put this title and thumbnail there because these are good titles and thumbnails, but they don't really match up with the content. And that's an easy way to fall into kind of a clickbait trap, or kind of the opposite, where like your idea wasn't fully fleshed out. So you just have kind of a crummy title and nobody clicked. So, things are a lot easier if you start from audience is interested in this. So my whole video and my packaging and all my content is going to deliver on what is actually interesting.
So I have a whole group of ladies that I told I was going to be talking to you, and they are all podcasters, and most of them have interview-based shows. And it's really hard. I mean, I do my best to keep us on track during our conversation, but it's really hard to match your title to your content when you're doing an interview. So what is your advice there?
That's a great question. And that is very hard. So I've two ideas. So the first thing you can do is like, all right, I have, and you already did this. It's like, all right, I have Jake Thomas coming on the show. I'm going to ask him these 5 questions because I know that these 5 questions will lead to good answers that would lead to a really great title. So by becoming prepared with like 5 different titles and thumbnails, or, I guess for any podcast, just having, all right, I think we could do these 5 titles. These would make for good titles. Let me ask questions that lead into this so that, so you're delivering on that, and then else kind of, just going from there. But, so maybe you might be like, oh, like, all right, Jake's, my biggest regret starting a YouTube channel, that would make a really good title. So I'm going to be like, hey, Jake, what is your biggest regret in starting a YouTube channel? And then, I'll answer that question, and you can kind of lead your podcast with that. So now you have your title, you're leading with that little teaser, and then you get into the episode and it's like, oh, that was actually really easy. Like we had a great title that matches the content. So that's kind of method number 1. The other method is you can kind of just think about the general outcome or problem that that people are struggling with, and just talk about that. So maybe the title is just like The Secret to Growing on YouTube. And The Secret to Growing on YouTube, that title can be applied to almost any YouTube podcast episode. So just, the first method was being specific. But the next is like, if you're struggling to grow on YouTube, watch this. Or, if you want to get your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, watch this.
Would you put the ideal client in the title? If you are a female solopreneur struggling to grow on YouTube, do this. Would you do that?
Potentially. So what you could do is,
Or if you're a golden retriever owner struggling to grow on YouTube.
yeah, yeah. So the title and thumbnail are very complementary. So you could put maybe in the thumbnail, for women over 40. And then the title is like, for solopreneurs wanting to grow on YouTube or something.
Okay.
And that way you have everything. You could say like, if you're a female solopreneur over 40, well, that's already 50, 60 characters. And you probably don't really want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, but for that example, yes, like kind of split it up between title and thumbnail. But yeah, I mean, if you're a female solopreneur, or if you're, you can also use images as well, like use imagery to call out, like, oh, this is a female solopreneur. That's a little bit harder than a golden retriever. But yeah, using images to kind of convey messages. I mean, it's like, so like golden retriever is a long word, and like sometimes it is kind of hard in the title, but by using an image of a golden retriever, it's like, oh, this is about at least dogs, but it'll especially attract golden retriever owners.
That's a good tip.
But yeah, I would love, every female solopreneur needs to watch this in 2025. So okay, that's a simple title. It's a good title because it's calling out a specific audience and it's using the current year, but it's super applicable to anything. So there's a handful of titles that are applicable to almost any content, and having a couple of those in your back pocket will save you.
So what would you call this video?
That is a great question. I know I need to come prepared. So it depends on your audience and what their problems are. So like, you know, you so here's a personal podcasting peeve. Most of your audience probably doesn't know my name. So I would not use my name in it. I would say YouTube title expert, maybe, or even YouTube expert. A lot of people want to put their guest's name in there, which is nice. But if nobody knows their name, then it's wasted space. And instead, you could give that person an interesting and exciting and easy to understand label like YouTube expert, as opposed to Jake Thomas. And it's like, oh, I don't know who Jake Thomas is. I don't care about him. But oh, YouTube expert, like, yes, I want to grow my YouTube channel. So yeah, I would probably say, and you know, it also depends on all of your previous titles, like, you know, what works on your channel. But you know, but we could say like, you know, this is the secret to growing on YouTube in 2025 or something. And I don't really like that, but and what I do, so like, I know I'm like fumbling around in this answer. What I do is
But it's not, this is not an easy process, y'all. It's not. Before I forget, what is the ideal number of characters for a YouTube title?
So it depends. Younger audiences and entertainment channels are better off using shorter titles. Shorter meaning like 35 to 55, 60, and it really depends on your audience and your channel. If you are on Mr. Beast and he wrote a 60 channel or 60 character title, that'd be horrible because it's twice as long as every other title. If you are on Diary of a CEO and you wrote a 60 character title, it's probably a little short. So it really depends. If you have an older audience and you're getting a lot of search traffic, then you can get away with longer titles, 50 to 65, maybe 70 characters. So I would assume for your audience, 50 to 70 is probably where I would try to land.
You are the first person that has ever said that. Most of them just automatically say 60 characters or 55 characters. No one has ever broken it down by age and audience before.
Well, I am also the only person who nerds out about titles specifically this much.
And that is why we are talking to you. All right, you mentioned it earlier, so I'm just going to ask you, what is your biggest regret from after starting your YouTube channel?
That's a good question. I love YouTube. I don't have any regrets. This is awesome. I'm sorry, it's not a great answer, but I just started a new channel. It's in the personal development space. I have a couple little channels. They're faceless channels. They're experiments where I have a bunch of title theories and I just want to test them out. So I have those. I will say starting a channel without an end in mind is a little bit of a regret. I have a dog channel and I'm not really sure what to do with it right now. It's going well and I'm still having fun, but I'm like, do I just keep trucking along or do I sell it? Do I just stop? Do I continue? So that's a bit of.
And is it monetized?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's monetized, and I haven't published in like a year and a half because I've been focusing on my software, but I'm just getting into it and it's fun. But yeah, I'm a little bit like, oh, like what are we doing now? So, and I wouldn't even say that's a regret. It's more of like, you know, what's the next steps? So it's a problem to solve, but it's not totally a regret.
My main channel, my first channel, which I don't post on very often, the one that got started in 2008, I think it's 2008. There is so much different types of content on that channel because I didn't understand about segmentation. I use playlists, but there's furniture videos because my husband and I had a custom furniture business. There's breast cancer videos. There's product reviews. There is even the first iteration of this podcast. The videos that go with that are there. It's just this mess, but it grows. Even though I don't post, that channel grows like probably more than the main, than my podcast channel. And I do nothing on that channel, but it's because of a few really good videos, right? So I don't know. Oh, there's all these rules. Right. My best videos don't have thumbnails, so there's all these rules and I don't know. I think the answer is it depends for a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends. I mean, as a rule, YouTube algorithm wants the viewers to click and stick. That's a simple way to think about what the YouTube algorithm wants. Click and stick. So they want someone to click your videos and stick around and watch all of the video and ideally just binge watch your whole channel. So like a year or two ago, I saw this channel And it was a really interesting title. It was a fitness channel. It's like the most powerful exercise you're probably not doing. And I was like, oh, what is this? So I watched the video and I really liked the video. And then I watched another video and then another video. And I watched like 50 videos on this channel. And that is exactly what YouTube wants. YouTube wants to kind of bring you in and like, hey, like watch this video. Now spend hours on the platform watching every other video. And that is like the ideal journey from YouTube's perspective. If you have a bunch of different formats and a bunch of different topics, you're making that a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
On this channel, it was the same format, the same topic. Everything was like some curiosity-based, really interesting exercise. And I was like, oh, so I watched all of them. But and they were all 5 to 10 minutes long. If he had a podcast that was an hour long, I would not watch it because that's not why I was on his channel. If he had a product review video, I would not watch that because that's not why I was on his channel. People have like kind of viewing habits where like, I want a video about a certain topic in a certain time frame. Like I watch this, I watch 10-minute videos on this channel. I'm not going to listen to an hour and a half podcast on this channel. That's not what I do. I don't want to watch a 2-minute testimonial video because that's not relevant to me. Life is a lot easier if you make content about the same topic in the same format for all of your videos. I'm not saying you can't have success without it, but it's a lot easier if you do.
So what are your thoughts on podcasts that do shorts? I stopped doing shorts because of something you said. So I want to know if I listened to you
shorts
correctly.
Or clips?
Clips of the podcasts that are shorts.
That are shorts?
Yeah.
So my I don't know if this is a cop-out answer. My answer would be like, look at the top podcast YouTube channels and see what their strategy is for shorts and clips. Like Diary of a CEO is one of the most successful podcast channels. They are not publishing any clips on their channel. I can't remember if they're publishing shorts. I think they are. Just see what everybody else is doing in regards to that. And that answer is.
But within your niche, I mean, I think Diary of a CEO, my clients would be attracted, my listeners would be attracted to that podcast. So
Yes, but this is right now we're talking about general YouTube strategy, not really content strategy.
Okay.
So I think that any podcast channel could get a lot from Diary of a CEO, just seeing how they run things.
You know what? I'm looking it up because I'm curious. Okay. So they have videos, podcast playlists, posts. They do not have shorts.
They do not have shorts.
They do not have shorts, and their videos are all more than 2 hours.
Yes.
Let me just click on, videos. Okay. So they only upload long form videos. No shorts.
And there was a time where a lot of channels were uploading 8-minute clips on their kind of main podcast channel. And every day, every week for the newsletter, I study like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 channels. There was a time where I was looking at like 100 channels or 200 channels a week to find content for my newsletter. And every week I have a flop of the week. And so the newsletter's like, all right, here are 5 videos that did really well. And here's a flop of the week that did really bad. So almost every time for a while there, the flop of the week, I had to stop doing this, but the flop of the week was like a clip on a podcast channel or just, it was some clips just didn't fit the rest of the content. And that was just the most common and consistent mistake that I stopped writing about it because it was getting boring. I was writing the same thing every week. It's like, know what your audience wants and give it to them. And if you don't, there's a good chance it's going to flop. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying you can't experiment with other things. However, just go into the experiment knowing that it's possible or maybe even probable that this is going to flop. But if you have a good reason for kind of risking that flop, then I think it's definitely worth experimenting.
And you can use clips in other places other than YouTube. You can take that clip and put it on a different platform and lead it back to your blog or the podcast. Or
you could also take a clip and put it on a separate channel.
That's true.
Personally,
too.
That's what I would do. A while ago, the producer for My First Million tweeted, it was a graph of like where their subscribers are coming from. And it was like long form videos, shorts, and clips. And clips, they were putting in a lot of effort into their clips, and their clips were getting like 1% of their subscribers. So they're like, yeah, we just stopped doing clips.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
personally,
I got no, I tried doing clips on about 10 episodes just to see because I saw other people doing it. So I would pull out, 2 to 8 minute clips, nothing. And shorts were getting some views, but for the amount of effort that it was taking me to create these shorts and do the SEO and all that, it wasn't worth it. So I've been very happy not doing any shorts. But then, like I said, I had some other podcasters who gave me some questions for you. One of them was about shorts. I want to, before we leave this topic, Diary of a CEO uses posts every day. They post under and so they have their videos and they have posts. So they are using that instead of shorts, which I think is great.
and what you just saw that I was like, oh, let me just see what the best people are doing in my niche, like high level strategy, and like how can I do that to mine? And you just like we just kind of unearthed like the strategy for shorts and posts, but you can do that for like thumbnail text, how long your titles should be, what your thumbnails should look like, what your intros should look like, what your like calls to action in the title or in the video, and where they should be. We could answer that question as well. I think it's one of my biggest things I'm a fan of is getting a list of channels that you admire. So I have two lists. I recommend everybody make two lists: is your Dream 10, which is your competitors, and then your Model 10, which is channels that have the same format as you. So like other podcast channels, not in your niche, but they talk about different topics. And so I would get my topics from my Dream 10, and then almost all of my other strategy, I would look at my Model 10 and be like, oh, what other podcast channels are killing it? What are they doing for their offers, their CTAs, everything? And then using that to kind of be like, all right, hey, Diary CEO, what do you think about this? And then I would go and actually look at what they're doing, and like, just pretend that they gave me that answer as if I just asked them.
This is gold. You just gave me gold. I love it. I could talk to you for 3 hours, but this is not a CEO 2 hour podcast. This is a 45-minute podcast, and I think we've already gone over. However, I have two more questions.
Let's do it.
One is, tell me about your software.
Software. It's so I've been writing about viral YouTube titles for 5 years now. We have a huge database of what works for YouTube. So we made an AI that writes titles for you based on all of those successful viral videos. So it's not just like kind of ChatGPT coming up with something. It's like, hey, like here's what has worked on YouTube. So we'll create your own style guide, and then we'll also use what is proven to work on YouTube, and we'll write titles for you there.
So how do you feed the info into the software? Like if I wanted to use the software,
So
would
you
I?
would Yeah. So you would sign up for Creator Hooks Pro, and then as soon as you like the first page that you're taking into Creator Hooks Pro is, hey, describe your video in 1 to 3 sentences. So you just put in, hey, my video is an interview with Jake Thomas. We talked about biggest regrets YouTubers make, and then click generate, and then it generates 10 titles for you. And you have a couple of different options to kind of tweak and figure out exactly what you want from there.
We actually talked about click worthiness versus clickbaitiness. I think. I think that's where we really stayed, which is where I wanted to be, because it can get icky. It can get icky in the world of internet. And I said I had two questions, but I have three. One of them is mostly a comment. All of these title ideas that we just talked about can be used anywhere, right?
So I have used these to write email subject lines. I've used these to rank number one on Google. Used YouTube title. It was 90% of people are decluttering wrong. And I used that for a Twitter thread. It was 90% of people are creating YouTube video, or no, it was 90% of people are decluttering backwards. And the hook for my thread was 90% of people are making YouTube videos backwards. So all this like same strategy works, cross platforms. It's really just psychology and
Yeah.
looking outside of your niche and using that to inform your content.
So even if you've planned to never make a YouTube video, this content today has been incredible.
Yes.
Okay. If
I hope so.
YouTube titles were pickup lines, which title would end up with a no, and which title would end up with a phone number?
I have my favorite title in mind. All right, so a no would be, did you know that luxury fashion clothing is actually made for poor people. That it's kind of
That's
a
a
long
bad title.
question.
Yeah.
It's long. It's a question. It's not. It's okay. But a better one would be luxury fashion is made for poor people. Where it's a bold, opinionated statement. It's got contrast because like luxury fashion and broke people, like that's opposite, right? So that's one of my favorite titles just because it's so simple. There's no exclamation mark. There's no, you'll never believe this. It's a very simple, strong, bold, opinionated, counterintuitive take. And those are my favorite types of titles.
And it's makes you want to watch the video because now I'm very
Because
curious.
Yes, because it doesn't make sense. So yeah, those counterintuitive statements kind of do a double take.
But it does make sense.
Exactly.
It does make sense because I know rich people and I know poor people, and rich people shop in a very specific way, and it's not luxury fashion.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, knowing your audience, being able to make bold, opinionated, counterintuitive statements is great. Personally, I like bold statements better than questions. If you're looking for just like a really simple way to write a title, like you might be, a lot of people think, oh, I got to build curiosity, I got to ask a question. I like bold, opinionated statements better than that.
But you can build curiosity without asking a question.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you just did. I mean, I'm going to Google it later.
Counterintuitive statements are a great way to build curiosity.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. I wish that we could talk for another hour. You've exceeded my expectations for this conversation. I love it when I get to meet people who I follow and you end up being a really nice guy, right? Because you could have been a jerk and I've been like, oh God, why did I do this?
Well, I appreciate that, kid.
So,
I try to be nice. I try to be nice online and nice in person.
and my audience might not know who you are, but I certainly do. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of
All right,
course, of course.
Jake Thomas, this is your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
Ooh, I am grateful to God for my wonderful family. I have a 2-year-old daughter and a son who's going to be here any day. He might be on the way. I don't know. My phone's on airplane mode right now. But my wife's due date is next week, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my wife for popping out 2 kids. She's incredible.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for grateful micropreneurs building genuine, lasting connections with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. A huge thank you to our guest, Jake Thomas. You can find his links in the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. This is episode 273. I've been your host, Candice Rodarty. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.